I dedicated my TED Talk, not to me, I dedicated it to us as humans. I came across this line, I think I was reading it during my time in New York, and the line goes like this: there's two planets meeting each other in the universe, and the one planet asked the other planet, so how are you doing? He goes, I'm feeling a bit sick. And the other planet goes like, why? Well, I have Homo sapiens. And the other planet goes, well, no problem, that goes away fast. So, we are facing a climate crisis, we all know that. And how does it look like? It looks terrible. Like, it's like complete disaster. You know, guys, like, we are up for the wrong path here. Nothing will work until we get going. And the very first 5 minutes of the talk are going to be very depressing, because I'm going to show you why it's not working. But I do believe we are the solution, as well as we're creating the problem. So actually, we need to reduce our CO2 emissions. Like, the number itself is mind-boggling. So currently, our yearly emission on this planet is around 50 billion CO2 ton equivalents. Massive number. If you multiply that by 50, that's the current price for 1 ton CO2, you do understand how big the economical problem is if we need to reduce that by 40% until 2030. However, where does the problem come from? It does come from energy. And that made me fell in love with renewables, because basically, if we're able to take the bad fossils out, put the good renewables in, we're basically rescuing the planet. Capture a bit CO2, because that we need to do, that's very clear. The UN currently admits that we also need to take CO2 out of the air for the very first time, in order to stabilize the climate as we would love to live on that planet. So how do we face that problem? And then the problem is getting bigger. That's also very terrifying. Why is the problem getting bigger? It's super obvious. This is where we need to go, basically. That is the total energy supply, put into an equation on the GDP. And we humans love one thing, that is reproduction, and then growing wealth, and that normally consumes energy. So this is 1 kilowatt hour of CO2, 1 kilowatt hour and how much CO2 is emitted currently. We are talking 460 grams per 1 kilowatt hour. Like, if you're living like in an apartment here in Berlin, like your average consumption is around 2,500 kilowatt hours a year. So everyone here, emits a lot of CO2, unless you're switching completely to renewables. However, that is a world problem. And the equation, if we are telling people that we need to reduce something, that's crazy, huh? Like, no one wants to reduce something, normally. Everyone wants to grow, optimize. And any idea on those guys? All right. So those are the brother rights. North Carolina. It's 1920. So it's 1903. Sorry. So 120 years ago, they invented flying, as we all know it today. How far did they fly?
20 meters.
Very correct, 23 meters. Amazing. For exactly 12 seconds. So it is groundbreaking what they have invented. But if we compare our flying today, the longest commercial flight on this planet is from New York to Singapore. Horrible experience, I think. 18.5 hours. Yeah. If you put this into seconds, that is 66,000 seconds. So it took us 120 years, a lot of engineering, and we are now, and everything, needs to go right. For 120 years, you grow this by 7%. So my solution to the energy crisis, or the climate crisis, so to say, is innovation. We need more innovation. And then we need to be very careful and not overjudging the innovation. Because what is the biggest trap we all do? This one here. Comes out of Stanford, 1960s, computer scientist discovered that generally we tend to overestimate the immediate impact of innovation in the short run, but underestimate the effect in the long run. So the brother writes, they made something which no one has done before, and everyone was super hyped about going flying. But then it took 120 years, to go from New York to Singapore. Was it Singapore? Yeah. So when we open up the media, we read a lot about the fancy stuff, the innovation which are currently happening. And I do believe that one day fusion will become a factor on this planet. I might not live long enough to see it, but it will happen. So I'm super hyped on fusion, but it will not help us in the next 20, 30, 40 years. I'm gigably hyped on green hydrogen to store energy, but also in the long run. And when you reach this plateau of productivity, that's where the steady work comes in. That's like the nitty-gritty innovations which happen every day, every morning when someone stands up and engineers the shit out of it. Sorry. However, that makes the world a better place, especially if we're humans doing this constantly over the next 100 years. I'm a firm believer that the efficiency in innovation will get so high that we will overcome this crisis. And to give you some perspective on 2 categories, I think. So this is the solar evolution. In 1950s, the first solar panel was designed. It was designed for satellite, and it had an efficiency of 5 to 6%, taking all the watts which are coming to the panel and then putting it into electricity. Today, that's 20%, and that's only how many years? Around 70. So we're going to continue seeing that innovation growing, and we're becoming more efficient. Then we'll definitely innovate us out of this crisis. The other example is wind, which everyone knows. The very first wind turbine which went commercial on land, could supply, a very few households only. The generation which we're currently applying to this world in the offshore world, one turbine can supply like 15,000 households. And that's like, again, only 30 years. So what's going to happen in the next 30 years? And that is, I think, what makes me so positive, and I am a firm believer that we will win this race. Same goes for storage. If you want to store energy today, the energy density of storage is very, very limited, especially if you put it in perspective to nature. Since this planet is existing, nature needed to store energy because we have a day and night shift. So plants are geniuses in storing energy. We are not. We need to learn from nature how they do it. To give you perspective, the coolest lithium-ion batteries which go into all the electrical taxis flying have an energy density of around 400 watt-hours per liter. Forget about the unit, it's 400. If you look at a blue whale, that's 10,000. So we got a lot to learn, and I think we as humans are always, good when we take nature and then take those principles and innovate every day until we reach, a solution which then, takes the carbon out of the climate or out of the atmosphere. And I am very, very sure that we'll get there. So with that, think about that where we are, slot it in, go out, either on the groundbreaking side, that's I think super interesting for everyone, or on the plateau of productivity. Because if you do so, we'll all win, and we created the problem, so we're going to solve it. So thank you very much.